How's everybody doing tonight? This is my sixth discussion. I'm talking to Jamie Mason of their Wires, amazing Boston hardcore band. Can't wait to talk to him. Usually do this on Sunday nights, but we're switching it up and we're doing it on Monday. Wednesday, I'm talking to Travis Shettle of Piebald. That should be a really good discussion as well. So I hope people watch and join in and chill. Just waiting on Jamie right now. What's going on?
There he is.
What's up, Jamie?
How you doing, bud?
Good. How are you?
Good.
Good. Good. I'm
Hey, have
glad.
we met?
I think passing by, we've said hello to each other. But I back then I was kind of a shy guy with the camera and didn't really announce myself or anything like that. So by passing, we've said hello. But it's good to meet you face to face. And I appreciate you doing this. There Were Wires was one of my favorite Boston hardcore bands back in early 2000, and thank you so much for doing this.
No, man, it's awesome. I appreciate the invite. Like, I'm a huge fan of all your videos. Not a lot of people were videotaping back then.
That's true.
And I lived my entire life with one of those shy people behind the camera, you know.
Yeah.
My girl's a photographer and yeah, she's always very quiet, but I mean, she documents everything and it's awesome. It was something we just didn't even think about back then. Like we
Yeah.
didn't about like, hey, we got to tape the show, you know, and just no one had cell phones out all the time and it was just a totally different thing. But man, like your feed gives me so much nostalgia for those days and like just seeing all the shows that you taped, stuff that I forgot about, you know, like a month after it happened and just to be able to check it out and see it, it's just like it's awesome. So
Yeah.
I'm glad that you were the guy back there putting in all those hours around the tape recorder.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you. The funny thing about that is like when I was videotaping, I saw like a bunch of other people videotaping, but I never see those videos. That's I'm always
Yeah,
like searching.
where are all those fucking guys? Get
Yeah,
that shit out
because
there.
because I'd be oh, there's a guy over here, there's a guy over here videotaping, and then I never see him anywhere. YouTube, they're not on YouTube. I don't see him anywhere. So I'm wondering where those hidden tapes of all these shows are because I like I said in my other talks, I still have stuff stuck on 8mm that I haven't put on anything, and I lost tapes from moving. So um,
Oh, totally. Yeah, I have
it,
tons of stuff that just got lost along the way. And I mean, you said you started back in like the late 80s with going to shows and recording and stuff, right?
yeah, yeah. The first show that like I recorded was Murphy's Law show in the late '80s, and also a Wrecking Crew. I think it was Eye for an Eye, Wrecking Crew, and Killing Time. In the back of the channel, there was like a room called the Edge that you would go to the back of the channel and go in the backside, and it was kind of like a smaller room. But that was '88, I think. Probably my first one that I did, and then um, that back then it was kind of shitty because you had the ginormous camcorder with the VHS
Get the
stuck in it,
VHS
and
slot.
it was about this big, and it was heavy and cumbersome. So I kind of like veered off doing it until maybe like late '90s. I got back into it, but all that time I was going to shows and stuff like that. But I wish I had recorded just nonstop.
Well, dude, I mean, you have a ton of stuff, so it's awesome. I'm glad you were there when you were there, for sure.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it. Um, can we just talk about how their why started back in 2000, right?
Yeah, it was probably, the start of it was probably around 98, 99. So I was going to college. I was going to art school in Chicago, and um, I remember going back. My aunt owns a restaurant on Martha's Vineyard off the coast of Massachusetts, and I had an opportunity to go to go work at a restaurant on the vineyard. And my cousin Sacha was good friends with Ryan Bagley, who played drums in There Were Wires. And I had never met him, but she would always say like, you've got to meet my friend Ryan. Like you guys are the same person. Like you guys would share a brain. Like you literally say the exact same things. And I was like, sure, and so I was like, okay, well, we'll hang out. And so, I think it was like the first week that I was on the vineyard for work and I was staying with my aunt. I met Ryan, and it was just one of those things that's like, oh yeah, this is my dude. Like I love this guy immediately. And from there, so we had friends, and for some reason on Martha's Vineyard, it's this tiny little island, and it's a really, most people would say it's a very like upper class island. There's a lot of money there, but there's also like families that live there, just middle class, normal people. And like Ryan and his family were one of those. And, they're just regular kids, just like skate kids and hardcore kids that are in punk and all this stuff. And I was like amazed at how many kids knew about hardcore bands and stuff like that, and so we got a bunch of friends together, just found anybody who could play anything, just because we were bored, on our days off. We just wanted to do shit. And so we just started playing music in Ryan's basement, and just, we'd do like mostly heavy metallic type stuff, like some real just like dumb chug stuff.
Yeah.
It was never meant to be anything serious. We were just having fun. And then kind of over the course of the time, like some songs started to develop, and like, we would play shows for our friends, and like we'd have friends come off, like people would come over to the island and play shows with us. And it was started to be this kind of like real thing. And then, more and more kids would come, and it was just really funny. And, like, and we started out just being like axe wielder, we just wanted to be like super dumb, really dumb Neanderthal metal chug type stuff, and just have a lot of fun and mosh around, then go get some donuts. That was like that was sort of our thing. And but it was just one of the most amazing times, because we're in this tiny microcosm. We've kind of created our own little culture with all the just like all these kind of just weird kids, and like art kids, and some punk kids. And it was just really, really fun. And, eventually we started playing off island, and we went through some different members to find like kind of who was really wanting to do it for real. And that included like Jeb, who played in Carrying 74, and Neil Simmons, who was in Still Waiting with Ryan at the time. So there was always kind of these other bands. We kind of would just pick from other bands and force them to be in There Were Wires, or Axe Wielder, or Cratia, or whatever we were at the time. We kind of just forced everybody into it. And eventually we started to go on tours, and we'd play in the Cape, and then we'd play some shows in Boston, and that type of thing. And it was just so much fun at that time, because none of it was supposed to be successful. None of it was meant to be like, we're going to do this, we're going to like conquer the scene or anything like that. We were just dumb kids, really just trying to like enjoy our time together and write songs and mosh and just be with our friends. That was like the entire point of the whole thing. And then from there, once after the vineyard days, eventually I didn't want to live on the vineyard. I couldn't work at my aunt's restaurant forever, but I quit art school in Chicago, and I wanted to move back to Boston, because this was all just a summer thing. I would come home for the summers, come back to the East Coast for the summers, work, and then go back to Chicago. And I'm from New Hampshire originally, so I grew up in New Hampshire. You're a New Hampshire guy, right?
Yep, I'm a New Hampshire guy. Yep.
Yes. But yeah, so I'd come back, and eventually just Chicago grew old, but it was great. In Chicago, I lived with my best friend Jody, who was really immersed in like the hardcore stuff. And a lot of that was where I even got the taste for a lot of the stuff that I was into, and kind of the direction that I wanted to go with things was, you know, there was so much stuff going on with Chicago hardcore back then, and I learned a lot, and I went to a ton of shows, and I got to see a ton of things, and that sort of pivoted my taste definitely towards more like a metallic thing
Yeah.
and heavier, like bands like Groundwork and stuff where like I would hear that and I was just like, God, this is so fucking like heavy and
Yeah.
desperate and just sick, like I wanted to be the heaviest thing,
Yeah.
if it was up to me, we would have probably sounded completely different, which wouldn't have been for the better, but these guys, like Jeb and Ryan and like Lucas and all these guys just had Thomas, they all just had better taste than I did, I was really into like metal. I liked, I was into like Catharsis and
Yeah.
Integrity, all that, Unbroken,
Yeah.
stuff like that. Super huge fan of that stuff. And yeah, and so, but that's where I kind of like developed the taste for what I wanted to do with There Were Wires. And I'm glad we always kind of kept that kind of punk element and a melodic edge to it, because I think that's kind of the whole appeal of what we were ultimately doing.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, what was your first like experience with hardcore in Chicago, or was it in Massachusetts, or even in New Hampshire, where you
Well,
was?
it was kind of the first tape I ever. Well, let me put it this way: that I think skateboarding was the beginning of everything for me. I think skateboarding was what kind of set the trajectory of what I thought was cool, and skateboarding introduced me to things like the Misfits and Black Flag and the Dead Kennedys and stuff like that. And I mean, I would see all this stuff in Thrasher magazine and just be like, this is fucking incredible. Like,
Yeah, me
what
too.
is this? This is crazy. Like,
Yeah, me too.
yeah, you know what I mean? And like,
Yeah.
it was just so compelling. And I grew up on a dirt road in the middle of nowhere in New Hampshire. And to see like all this cool shit going on that looks just like dark and scary and weird. And so I started kind of getting into the music from there. And like, I'd go to our local Ames store, like the big department store.
Yep. Yep.
And I bought my first tape, which was Killers by Iron Maiden. It was the first cassette tape I ever bought by myself. And it was such an acquired taste. It took me like a year to even like get it,
Oh,
I would
yeah.
listen to it over and over again, but I was like, I think I like this, but it's really different,
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so I kind of I was interested in that from there. I was interested in that kind of thrasher skate rock type shit. And then in high school, I kind of veered more into Bad Religion. Like Bad Religion was a huge influence. I loved Bad Religion. All
Yeah.
those early records, like How Could Hell Be any worse? And this stuff is just, to this day I listen to it constantly. But Fugazi, like all that sort of stuff. So I had like a foot in that door,
Yeah.
as far as what I liked. But it really wasn't until, I kind of got to Chicago, and Jody played in, my friend Jody that I lived with, he played in a bunch of hardcore bands, and he sang, he did vocals for Disembodied for a tour and stuff like that. He sang in that band Tusk, Hinckley, and all those things. And he was just like a massive influence on everything I did. He
Yeah.
was so just out of control, like he was just, everything he did was just like 100%. I'm doing it, and he's just an absolute crazy person. But yeah, I was just super influenced by him, and he kind of helped me direct my taste. But so it was like going to shows with him. And I remember seeing like Damnation AD and Earth Crisis for the first time in Chicago.
Yeah.
There's a place called the Fireside Bowl
Yeah.
where I saw, you'd see bands like Lifetime and
Yeah.
Weston, bands like Coalesce and Dead Guy would play, Converge, of
Yeah.
course. And, but, so Chicago was a big part of that. And then once I came back to Boston, everything was all Cave In and Converge. And, so those bands were obviously a big influence on us.
Yeah.
They were kind of the prototypical, like that's when I think of Boston hardcore. For me, my era, it's Converge, Cave In, ISIS, you know, stuff like that. Even though ISIS was doing something different, but kind of all in that vein. Even like stuff like Piebald, you know, it was all that stuff was kind of part of that thing that we were all really influenced by. And it was funny because then years later we were able to play shows with them, and you know, like a lot of those guys became our friends and stuff. And
Yeah.
it was just kind of a weird thing because we were just kids driving around Martha's Vineyard and singing along, screaming out the windows to The Saddest Day, and
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
stuff like that, you know. And yeah, it was wild. So the fact that anybody ever came around to care about There Were Wires in a way that's like, hey, this was an important band to me, and you helped develop my art taste. That's wild, you know. It's probably the most awesome thing. It's the best possible scenario for us even starting a band at all.
Yeah.
Is that anyone gives a shit 18 years after the fact? You know, it's
Yeah.
wild.
Exactly. In New Hampshire, did you ever go to any hardcore shows in New Hampshire, or were your first ones like in Chicago?
I remember I did go to one hardcore show in Rochester, and I'm having a hard time remembering who was playing, but I remember there was a band called Fragment that played,
Fragment, yes, yeah,
right?
yeah,
And they're like pure chug, just like
yeah,
just metallic chug, and it was at some kind of shithole place. I don't know, but like this was before I had been to like a real show.
yeah,
And like I remember just dudes were going off, you
yeah,
know, and there's like 10 kids in the room, and it
yeah,
was just yeah, it was just nuts. But I remember seeing being like, oh, this is wild.
yeah,
And before that was kind of when I was in like my Bad Religion and like No Effect stage and
yeah,
stuff. I was really into that, you know, kind of like epitaph type punk. And
yeah,
um, but I remember it being just like, oh, this is like so this is like dark and chaotic and fucked.
yeah.
It's pretty rad, you
New
know,
Hampshire,
like
back then, New Hampshire had like a pretty, I wouldn't say huge scene, but it was a pretty big scene, especially in Rochester and Manchester. They had Safe and Sound up in Rochester, and
oh, that's probably where I was. Yeah,
Safe and Sound and
I'm sure of it.
Club Savoy in Manchester, and they also had Cafe Eclipse in Concord. So it was always like a kind of like a jump from place to place every weekend. But I mean, I saw a bunch of crazy bands up there. I saw Converge at Safe and Sound. I saw Cave In a few times up there. I saw Assuck up in Rochester.
Oh man, that's sick.
Rever- Reversal Man, I saw her up there. Fall Silent.
Oh fuck, I forgot about them. Yeah.
Yeah, Darkest Hour when like
Oh, rose up a bit. Good.
yeah, so it was quite a scene. It was quite a scene up there.
Yeah, that was all like it was pretty new to me. I mean, the first real punk show I remember going to was going to see No Effects in Boston, driving from New Hampshire. I remember being like pretty scared. I think it was at the Rat,
Yeah,
and being like nervous about it, you know, because I had
yeah,
never really gone to a big show like that. But you know, right up front with a big fat guy with his fucking elbows in my neck the entire time, and I was like, I'm not moving, you know,
yeah,
like it was
yeah.
it was it was rad. It was a good exhausting time.
Yeah, my first show was very scary too. I saw SSD and DYS at the Gallery East when I was 12 because
Damn.
one of my cousin's older friends had a car, and he was like, "You want to go to this hardcore punk show?" Well, he's like punk show, and I was like, "Yeah, sure." Like, and then he took me there, and I went in there, and I kind of had like hair down here. Nobody had hair like that when I walked in, so I was first I was scared shitless. I was like, "Oh God," because I was little, and I saw the show, and I saw people like jumping on each other, and it was crazy, and I was scared shitless, and it kind of pushed me. Like, I was so scared that I didn't go to a show probably until I was 15 after that, and then I started going to the channel like every Saturday and Sunday. They would have hardcore matinees, and that's where I saw like the New York staple of hardcore, where I saw Gorilla Biscuits, Agnostic Front back then, Youth of Today. I saw Bad Brains on the
Oh,
Quickness,
damn.
well, only on the Quickness tour though. I was a little late on the scene, but still, I mean, at least I got to see him. And that
Dude,
was
you have some clout for real. That's wild. You've seen some crazy shit.
the funny thing is, it was these kids from Kingston, New Hampshire, that got me like to go to the channel all the time. It was two brothers that were into hardcore at the time, and they could borrow their dad's car, and I didn't have a license at the time, and they were like, all right, we're going every weekend, and every single weekend we would go. And they would even go to like the metal shows where, you know, I saw Flotsam and Jetsam at the channel when Jason Newsted was playing bass, and
Holy shit.
I saw Creator back then, like just crazy shows back then. But it was awesome, and that's why I always say this when I talk to people. They like nowadays they don't realize that even when There Were Wires was playing, it was every single weekend, sometimes 2 times a week. It was always a packed lineup. You guys played with packed lineups all the time, and it's not like that now.
Not all the time.
Most of the time.
In Boston sometimes, but yeah, not so much out of state.
most of the time around here it was packed.
Yeah, we got lucky. We always felt like we were pretty lucky that the amount of kids that came out, we never expected it ever, you know. And it was really cool. I mean, I'm super stoked that we got to play with as many awesome bands as we did. You know, it was, I don't know, I felt like we put a lot of effort into writing and playing locally and stuff, but we didn't ask for a whole lot, you know, like I don't think we ever pushed that hard for things. A lot of things kind of just would fall into our lap, you know?
Yeah.
And we'd be like, okay, you know, I think we tried to do everything as make everything as hard as humanly possible, you know, like we wanted to do things ourselves. Like we took it really seriously. We booked our own shows. We never had an agent, you know.
Yeah.
We never, I remember being on tour with no fucking cell phone, no, you know, GPS or anything, and we have a map and like a piece of paper sharpied with phone numbers on it from people that might give us a place to stay.
Yeah, exactly.
And it was wild, and like we were lucky to have good friends that did support us and like would help us with things. You know, we had guys like Ben Sisto, of course, that, you know, ran Mass Art. Mass Art was obviously a huge part of, you know, where we were able to play a lot.
Yeah.
And there's always kind of a venue there, and he came on tour with us a couple times. Casey Iodine was a great friend, you know, who helped us with our full-length records and stuff. But yeah, well, I mean, I remember most punk bands can probably relate to it, but yeah, it's like you have a show tomorrow at 7 o'clock, and you're screen printing your shirts at 3 a.m. the night before, you know, like, and that was us, you know. It was like last minute cowboys, always just like, all right, we gotta get the posters done, you know. And you know, but we were also all kind of like, I mean, it sounds a little stupid. We were artsy guys, you know, like Jeb Riley and Ryan Bagley are like amazing artists, like, and they are real artists now, you know.
Yeah.
Ryan does design, and he's recently got into tattooing, and yeah, he's phenomenal. Jeb's been tattooing for years now, and his stuff, you know, he went to art school, and he was always doing design work, but man, he's just fucking amazing.
Yeah.
And we were kind of lucky, but we always had a hard time kind of, I don't know, picking and choosing what was best, you know. A lot of that, but it was funny because a lot of that earlier Wires art stuff was just me doing clip art shit in my apartment, you know, like the skull guys and stuff like that. Like that, a lot of that stuff was just kind of like, all right, I just want to get something done, so I just do something, and then there it is forever. You know, so weird that I would end up doing any of it.
Now, the demo that you guys recorded in God City, how did that come about? Like, that you guys decided to go with Kurt?
I think we were friends with Ben Kohler, like, and I actually stayed with his wife now, Marguerite, for for like a few months when I first moved to Boston. so we were friends with Ben, and we kind of knew the Converge guys a little bit, kind of off and on. Like Nate and I, Nate and I would skate together every once in a while.
Yeah.
But we just decided to go with Kurt because it was just like, well, if we can do it, let's do it with him,
Yeah.
because it was close enough to proximity, and obviously he knows how to make records sound good.
Yeah.
This was earlier on, but I remember that was our first time in the studio ever, and we were a little jittery, and there was a lot of stuff we didn't really know how to do, and we kind of just went with it. Kurt was really pretty patient with us and everything, but I just felt like the whole, like, I hadn't listened to the demo in a long time until recently.
Yeah.
And I put it on, and I was like, we're playing these songs like double time. Like we're just trying to like get through this. Like let's go.
Yeah.
Like time is money, and we don't have any money. Like, we quit. So it sounds really fast to me, but it was just like a quick recording. But I remember I really liked how it came out. I thought I liked demos. Actually, I think one of our best recordings in some ways. I think it was just 4 songs, but I couldn't believe it when it came out. I was just like, this is insane. It's crazy that like we actually wrote these songs and they're recorded, and this sounds like a real band. Like the songs are a little sloppy, and the tones are a little here and there, but ultimately this sounds like a real band, and like that's my voice, and I don't know how to sing. I don't know, like I was only the vocalist and there were wires because I couldn't do anything. I can't play any instruments.
Yeah. That same here.
Like you're the guy in the room that doesn't have any skills. So now you're the singer. And that was me, But those guys were really good, like all the people we played with over the years were good musicians, and like they really they played a lot, and put a lot of hours in. But that demo was funny. I mean, I think we only put out 50. There's probably only like probably less than 100 for sure. But
really?
All I know is I dubbed each and every one on my stereo one at a time with no high-speed dubbing.
Ooh.
Like in my room, like all night long.
Yeah.
All came out and all like hand printed and numbered and
It's a gem right there to have.
Hardest way possible. It's the best way to do it. Make it excruciating. That's the only way.
So, in 2001, what I'm not sure what came first. Was it the split with Moment, or was it the CD that had come out? The
CD came, the self-titled came out first, and we kind of did our own first run of that. We recorded it with Keith at Machines with Magnets in Rhode Island, which was great. That was a much more, for some reason, it was a more comfortable kind of place for us. If it was a little, we didn't feel quite as much pressure there, and. Yeah, I think it was an enjoyable experience to do that record. We had more songs and newer stuff. I'm not a huge fan of the actual recording of it. I think it sounds like, to me it sounds really dry. Like just for whatever reason. I think there's good songs on it, and I love to play those songs live. But listening to them, I prefer like the later stuff. But that came out, and then I think shortly after we went back in and we recorded those 2 songs with Moment. Yeah. And for the Moment split, and that was cool.
How did that come about? You guys hooking up with Moment to do the split? I'm
not exactly sure. I think the Moment thing was funny because they were great guys. Like I loved all the guys in Moment, and on paper it didn't make a whole lot of sense because we don't sound anything alike.
Yeah, sometimes that's the coolest split.
No, absolutely. Yeah, you have something that sounds pretty different, but still inhabiting the same universe, and that's good. Yeah. But they were just really cool guys, and they played in other bands. Let's see, they played in this band. Some of the members, like Dawn, played in My Magnificent. Not Dawn, but Dawn played My Magnificent Machine. And there's just all these kind of like incestuous bands that were members, had multiple members in each band, and they would come over to the vineyard and play shows in our friend Lucas's basement. And Lucas played guitar for us earlier when we were like Acracia and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And so we would just meet these people, and we'd all get along, and then be like, hey, we're gonna have a show, and then we started just playing a lot of shows together, and then kind of once we moved to Boston, we were just playing with Moment all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they were like our sister band, really, and like I always thought it was kind of that, like it was sort of like a more DIY, more underground version of like Cave In and Piebald, it was like there were choirs and Moment, that was kind of that sort of vibe. But it was great. Like we were always happy to do stuff with them, and we got along well. I think we did some. I couldn't even tell you how many shows we did together, but it was a lot.
I think I've actually seen you guys play. I'm not sure where it was. I know it was in Massachusetts somewhere, but yeah, I can't think of the place. But like I said, my mind is so fuzzy with shows that I've been to. I was telling somebody the other day, somebody was like, oh, you remember me and you went to Mid Carson July in Garrison in Lawrence, Mass at the VFW? And I was like, I didn't go to that show. And then he shows me a picture of me and him standing there, like with the band right there. I was like, oh, I guess I did go. I was like,
sorry, man, we're all getting old. You can't hold on to that shit forever.
Yeah. Like I said, my mind is not what it used to be, but I'm trying.
I know. I tried to rack my mind to think about like the timeline of how everything worked out for Wires, and I think I had most of it close to correct. So I'm doing my best for you.
When Somnambulist, what was the transition from was there anything in between the self-title and that album, or?
I think it was just that 7-inch. And yeah, I think it was just that. We didn't record a lot. I think we did a Sonic Youth cover in there that I think we actually recorded with. So we recorded at the place. I can't remember what it was called when we were there, but it used to be called Fort Apache.
Oh yeah.
And like the Pixies had recorded there, and a bunch of other, like I think Tom Petty recorded there and stuff like that. And this was when we did some Somnambulist with Casey and Iodine Records, and it was a whole new thing because this was like a real studio. We had Matt Squire produced it and recorded the whole thing, and it was a much longer process than we were used to, and it was great. I mean, it was one of like I still really like the way it sounds to this day.
Yeah, it sounds so like brutal. Like still, I always listen to it anyways because it's always in rotation. But I was listening to it more this week, and it just makes me appreciate that CD so much more. Just like it's up there on my list of top CDs to listen to.
That's awesome, man. Thank you. Like it was a cool experience. Like, and I think everybody really had to up their game on it, and kind of we were obviously maturing, and wanting to get away from just the short, fast, bursty stuff, which as much as I like playing that, like again, I would have been in a straight up grindcore band, up to me. But so I had to really try hard to figure out how to sing over this stuff, because I'm not like a natural vocalist at all. And like this stuff was really expansive and, kind of driving and atmospheric. And there's a lot of real quiet, long passages and stuff. And it was hard, it took me a long time to figure things out. And like, I'm happy where it went, and I'm happy where it was lyrically. I think that's definitely what I'm most happy with There Were Wires in general. But I think we had a lot of help from Matt Squire, kind of sussing out where we want to be, and I think Jeb should get a lot of credit for what was going on with that, because I think Jeb had we also had Thomas Moses from who played in Moment. We stole him after they broke up, and he's awesome. He's a great guitar player, and like he's just so solid and like everything just like he's like I don't know, does this sound good? And it's just like, and he just gets this perfect riff, and you're like,
Yeah.
yeah, that sounds great. We're just gonna go with that, you know. And
Yeah.
so he's amazing, and you know, he just plays in really straight up, you know, great way for what we were doing. But Jeb, I think, had a much more, he had a wider net of bands that he was influenced by. You
Yeah.
know, Jeb was into every band. You know, like
Yeah. Yeah. Just like,
you know, I like Brutal Truth, and I liked Assuk, and I liked His Hero Is Gone, you know, and Jeb's listening to Godflesh, and he's listening to the Cocteau Twins, and you know, like
yeah. Yeah.
you know, he's all over the place, and
Yeah.
so he kind of like let us breathe a little bit, and you know, we could get away from like, we don't have to just be short, fast, brutal. We don't
Yeah.
have to have a mosh part in every song. We don't, you know, like
Yeah.
we can let things breathe. And I think a huge part of why that was successful was because of Jeb and Ryan as well. Just like he was awesome, awesome drummer.
Yeah.
And yeah, we were just really, really lucky that everybody was willing to kind of like, because we knew it was going to alienate people, you
Yeah.
know, and bands do that all the time, you know, like bands, to kind of grow a little bit, you have to be willing to alienate some part of your audience, even if it's your core audience. And
Yeah. Yeah.
you know, I've definitely like lost interest in a lot of bands that went in a direction I didn't like,
Yeah.
you know, and that's just kind of part of the price you pay, I guess. But
Yeah.
yeah, that so it was Somnambulist. It was a risk, but everybody seemed to, you know, to dig it.
Now
I
with some,
didn't. Go ahead.
oh, sorry. With Somnambulist, is that actually a real Sleepwalker on the cover of that CD, or
It's Jeb. It's a photo of Jeb.
is he a Sleepwalker?
He might be. I don't know. He's a weird guy. There's a lot of things Jeb might be. But no, I remember writing that. I remember writing the lyrics for that, and I think a lot of it had to do with kind of family. You know, most of that record is about family, and most of it's about, you know, all the things when you're growing up and you're trying to figure out like what the fuck are you doing? You know, like
Yeah.
what are you doing, and why do you do the things you do? You know, and trying to kind of suss out that weird space between being a kid who has trying to have a lot of fun and make a lot of room to just be free and enjoy yourself,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden having to have responsibilities, and like, and you have to find a way to like live, you know. And so yeah, it was kind of like this weaving in and out of like family stuff and just own personal, you know, bullshit that a lot of people go through.
Yeah. Did you guys ever record any songs
Nope,
that
you
never
there?
got?
Froze up
Yeah.
for a sec.
Oh, did you guys record any songs that never got released after that? Is there any hidden There Were Wire songs anywhere?
Check one, check two.
Can you hear me?
There you are.
All right. I was asking, is there any other There Were Wire songs that
Nope.
never got released?
Sorry, you're breaking up a little bit. Never released stuff?
Yeah.
Is that what you asked?
Yeah.
I don't think so. We didn't really record a whole lot. You know, I don't love recording. It's like not my,
Yeah.
that's really not my favorite thing. I think it was like Jeb and Ryan really liked it. I think Thomas liked it too, because they're actual musicians. I liked playing shows.
Yeah.
You know, it's like being on a football team, and like, yeah, practices fucking suck, you know,
Yeah.
but games are fun, you know, and like that's kind of how I always felt about it.
Yeah.
So we didn't really record a lot. We were actually all really busy, you know. We were busy people that were trying to, you know, a lot of like, you know, Ryan and Jeb were trying to get careers off the ground. I inadvertently, just by being having to survive in Boston, got a job the first couple of months once I moved there. That became my career for like 18 years.
Yeah.
You know, after the fact.
Yeah.
even after moving out of town into Portland and stuff. So I think we were all just pretty busy and like recording. It got to the point where just everybody was kind of pursuing their own thing, you
Yeah.
know. And Don, who was playing guitar for a while, kind of towards, I think this is like 2000, like maybe beginning of 2004. He's wanted to pursue some arts. I think like pottery or something. He just got super into it, and he's just like, yeah, I don't think I want to do this anymore.
Yeah.
I'm gonna opt out. And so we were gonna continue on there as Disappearer,
Yeah.
and which is like I was really excited about, you know, because it would have just been Ryan, Thomas, Jeb, and me, you know, and I was gonna sing and everything, and we did a few practices as Disappear, and those guys wrote really awesome songs, and they kind of took from, and you probably heard them, you know, you probably
Yeah.
heard some demo songs, but they're, you know, really long, much even more expansive, even
Yeah.
more room to breathe, and at that time I was having a hard time in Boston. Like I was having a really hard time being happy there.
Yeah.
And I had a job that was really, really stressful. It was like a really intense, like end of the day, like I fucking hate this type of job.
Yeah.
And I just felt like the city was just so aggressive, and I found myself just being so pissed all the time. I was just
Yeah.
pissed constantly
Yeah.
that I was like, I feel like I need to go do something else, you
Yeah.
know. And with There Were Wires kind of ending and Disappear starting, it was also like I don't want to start over again, you
Yeah.
know. Like I don't. This feels like okay, now let's do it all over again.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah. Exactly.
and I'm the, you know, I'm the oldest. I was the oldest guy in There Were Wires, you
Yeah.
know, and like so I kind of felt like I have to start doing something else. If this is, and I can't, I've put so much time and energy into this thing, and to have it end and then be like, all right, we're going to do it over was just kind of too much. And, you
Yeah.
know, and I was thinking about getting out of the city anyway. And my girlfriend's sister was going to Reed College in Portland, and she wanted to come out and like stay and maybe move out here to be closer to her sister. And I was like, I'll go with you, you
Yeah.
know? And so that's kind of what I decided to do. And like, so I did, you know, I did a few practices with Disappear. And part of the problem was I couldn't sing over it. I couldn't,
Yeah.
there was nothing I could do to make those songs better,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know. And that was a credit to them, because I thought the songs sounded great, just totally instrumental.
Yeah. Yeah.
At least those demo songs. And then when they did the clearing, after I think Ryan had quit and Matt Spearin went in, when they did the clearing, I like Jed did a phenomenal job with the vocals, you know, like and
Yeah.
playing bass as well. It's
Yeah.
just epic record. It's awesome. It's
Yeah.
really underrated. So I'm glad I'm stoked I had nothing to do with Disappear, because it's better for it for sure. And yeah, credit to go to those guys. And then I ended up in Portland, and I haven't really done anything with music since being here, not in a real way.
Yeah.
I did try at one point. I think it might have been 2000. So I moved out here in 2004, beginning of 2005, and I think a couple years, maybe in 2007 or 2008, I was like, I miss being in a band. I want to be in a band again.
Yeah.
And I, you know, I found this band that was kind of this post-metal sludge type thing. I was looking for a singer, and I went and I hung out with the guys, and we did a little practice thing, and they were stoked, and they're like, yeah, this is great. And they somehow they knew of Their Wires, and they had heard our records, and so they were really stoked. And I went to maybe like 4 practices or something like that.
Yeah.
And I was just like,
wasn't for you.
I just couldn't do it. It's just like and I realized it wasn't really like playing music that I missed. It wasn't like being in a band that I missed.
Yeah.
I just missed my friends, you know.
Yeah.
Like I just wanted to play music with Ryan and Jeb and Thomas. You know,
Yeah.
that's entirely it. And the guys were great. They were really really nice dudes that I was hanging out with, you know. But it just I was, I would dread it. You know, the time the fifth practice came around, I was like,
Yeah.
this is not
And
for
then
me.
it's not worth it when you're dreading going to practice.
Yeah, yeah, you want to be excited about it. And that was, yeah, it was definitely less about being in a band and more about just like, yeah, I just miss my good friends. That's
No,
all.
we talking Portland, Oregon, or we talking Portland, Maine?
Oregon,
Oregon.
yeah, the other side of the
Yeah.
country. Yeah, so I've been out here since I've been out here since for about 15 years or so.
Now, do you miss the East Coast at all, or?
I do miss the East Coast. I have a lot of love for the East Coast. I don't miss the snow.
Yeah.
I I cannot fucking do I can't do snow anymore. It's just digging my car out of a snowbank every morning in
Yeah.
the winter. I just don't
Yeah.
want to
It's rough.
do it.
I'm getting tired of it. Honestly, I've been trying to push my wife to go somewhere warmer, and my kids don't want to budge, and she doesn't want to budge right now. But I mean, eventually, I think I'll, I don't know. Hopefully, I break her somehow into thinking she, winters suck here.
I mean, I'm, on one hand, I have like, I miss it. I have like I have a romanticized view of New England, like Boston and New Hampshire in particular. Like, I honestly, like, I love it. And I love going back to visit and everything. I just don't think I can live there, you
Yeah,
know? Portland's been, I mean, I'm not in Portland anymore. We're about 45 minutes outside the city. We bought a house out in this little town like 4 years ago.
yeah,
And this is fantastic. We like being in like little towns outside of a big city where you can go and get good food and go to shows and stuff like that.
yeah,
But yeah, I always think about going back. You know, my parents live in Maine,
yeah,
and yeah, we went back for Christmas and that sort of thing. And I don't go back nearly as much as I should. But yeah, I don't know. I just I miss I do miss you know, what I was saying before, like when we were texting a little bit, was just like all the stuff that you post, you know, like all the old stuff. It's just this massive nostalgia bomb every
yeah,
single time. And
yeah,
like the graininess of the footage, I see it immediately. I'm like, oh, that's from the 2000s. You know, that's
yeah,
from like 1999. Like
yeah,
that's my era, you know, and um it's awesome. I mean, those were they were literally some of the most fun times in my life, you know, and like, and a lot of it was less about playing shows and less about creating music and stuff, and it was more about just being able to be around a bunch of like-minded kids, you
yeah,
know. And we always felt kind of in a weird limbo in Boston as a band, you know, just in that we had, you know, we were a little punk and we're a little hardcore. We're a little like screamo in there, you know, like
yeah,
that sort of thing.
yeah,
But you know, we kind of like span across some genres, and we could play shows with, you know, bands, really little bands that just started out in a basement somewhere, and then you know, on the other side of it, we're playing shows with Converge and the Dillinger Escape Plan, and you know, like and all these other, you know, larger Thursday and stuff like that. You know, so we were able to kind of like span the spectrum. But we always felt good that we appealed to like a lot of the outsider kids, you know, and a lot of it was the outsider suburbs kids. You know, I don't know of a ton of people. You know, a lot of the real, you know, like when you think of like hardcore in Boston, you know, you think of like American Nightmare and like,
yeah,
you know, Bane and, you know, stuff like that. And,
yeah,
you know, we just weren't that type of hardcore, but we also weren't like skinny white belt, you know, like
yeah, yeah,
hair music either. So we tried to really just be human beings that were fully accessible, you
yeah,
know, and that accessibility, I think, was what made everything so fun for us. Is that like we could have all these friends, and a lot of those friends that were just living out in the middle of nowhere and would drive, you know, an
yeah,
hour and a half to come into Boston to see a show, went on to do really cool things, you
yeah,
know, and were really supportive through and through. And amazing to me, you know, like just how many people cared
Yeah.
about anything that we did, you know.
Yeah. I mean, I traveled all the time from New Hampshire. It was always at least an hour, and I'd go to Connecticut all the time in Rhode Island. So it was always like an hour and a half. Connecticut was sometimes 3 hours if I was going to Waterbury. And I'm doing these things while I have to work in the morning. So I get home at 3 and I sleep 3 hours, and then we do it like 4 days. 4 days later I'll be doing the same thing. But I mean, I love the music so much. And then I played in like kind of like a smaller hardcore band too, and I got to play with some cool bands also, but I always loved the scene ever since I was that first experience at 12 years old. I like the love for it even to this day is like I love hip hop too, and I go to a ton of hip hop shows too. My friend is like was the like main promoter of the Middle East, and so he
Oh,
would,
rad.
would let me go to the Middle East and sit on the side of the stage and videotape hip hop shows. And I'm just, I'm just lucky to see what I've seen. And I think I always, because I had friends back in high school that were like, hardcore, you're never going to listen to that when you're 30 years old. Like, who are you kidding? Like, this stuff is shit. And I'm like, you watch. And I'm creeping up on 50, and I still listen to everything. Like the Horsewhip album just came out. I love that. It's like I'm immersed in this scene still, and that's why I try to like just push the videos out that I can for nostalgic reasons or whatever. And people remember, like even the flyers, like people are like, oh my God, I went to that show. Like, I can't believe, like, I forget about those flyers.
I
It's
love the flyer posts. Like you see shows that are just like unreal. Like I can't even believe that was a show, you know?
I know.
Like how do they get all those bands together? It's great. And the show's like $6, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah. Bring a can of food and it's $5.
Yeah. Yeah, bring a can of tomatoes and you're good to
Yeah,
go. It's absolutely wild. But yeah, I mean, I get it. I feel the same way. You know, I don't keep up with things as much as I used to. I not so much for the hardcore thing. Like hardcore as a genre is not something that I'm like all that like wrapped up in. So, you know, I'll listen to new bands that if there's like some sort of buzz that I catch about it, you know, I'll look into it. But I've noticed there is kind of like a 90s throwback thing going around right now where
yeah,
it's like literally even the fonts are starting to creep
yeah,
in. Look at
yeah,
this.
yeah,
It's like,
yeah,
wow, we're really going back in time.
yeah,
And it's cool, and I get it, you know, like that disembodied pinch squeal thing, you know,
yeah,
like you
yeah,
hear that in a lot of things. And I mean, I listen to a lot of classic rock these days, and I listen to like death metal. Like
yeah.
that's kind of that's where I go. Um, so, but with skateboarding, I kind of do the same thing with skateboarding, where I keep up with everything with skateboarding, and I'm too old and frail, and I have no insurance, so I can't skate as much as I used to. But
Yeah.
like I know everything that's going on with skateboarding, and
Yeah.
it's this, and I'm also, you know, I'll be holy shit. I guess I'll be 46 in May. So yeah, we're just two old guys that
Yeah.
like managed to like a subculture for a long, long time,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
rare, especially when they say you're going to grow out of it.
We got about 7 minutes. I can't stand they give you an hour and it's like they cut you off like that. But I have some quick questions, like a quick round
Let's go.
robin.
Let's do it.
Um,
Rapid
favorite,
fire, baby.
favorite New England hardcore band all time for you?
You know what band I really love? And like, I never got to see them live. I love that band Dive.
Dive.
Yeah. You know
Uh,
Dive?
no.
Yeah, I think they put stuff out on that Moo Cow record.
I
Uh,
know.
yeah, Dive. It's they're just fucking awesome. Like I it was check it out, check them out. But I think it would
I'm not,
probably be Dive. I know it's like I probably should say like Converge or something like that,
yeah. Yeah.
but literally I think I
It's
think
that.
it's Dive.
All
That's the
right.
band that like when I want to listen to like an old New England hardcore band, that's what I reach for. It's really
Nice.
hard to find.
I'll have to check it out.
Yep.
What was the first punk hardcore show you attended? Was it that Fragment show? You might have already answered it.
I think I managed to get to a No Effects show before that, and I think the No Effects show was sometime around the time they put out S&M Airlines or something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think that No Effects
No
was the
effect.
first real like, holy fuck, I'm at like a punk show. This is a
Yeah.
punk show. I'm
Uh,
here.
all right. My next question is, what was your all-time favorite show that There Were Wires played? Like that meant the most to you. Like whether it be the band you played with or just the atmosphere alone. What was your top show that you guys ever played?
100% was the show at that was supposed to be at Fort Thunder that got moved to As the Sunset's practice space with Converge, Catharsis, and not Daughters, but what's it?
As,
Um,
as the sun sets.
As the Sunsets. That show was absolutely fucking bonkers for us. And I think we opened that show. It was running late. My brother was there. My best friend Jody was there, and he lived in Chicago, so he was just out visiting.
Yeah.
And it was just the best show. It was just fucking wild, and it was packed. It was so dangerous, and like then I think that there's scenes from the Long Road Home Converge
Oh
DVD.
yeah, yeah.
Where the dude comes in from the rafters.
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh,
yeah, that was that show. Yeah, that was that show.
Now
And
that wasn't the same show that you guys played with Kite Flying Society. Was that the same place?
I
Or
don't
no?
know. I think we only played that one place. We only played that practice space once, but it was that one show that was that As the Sunset's practice space was probably my favorite show ever.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you my least favorite show, which was Monster Fest in Vermont. That was the worst show I think we ever played.
Monster
And
Fest.
I wish I could erase it.
All right. My next question is, what was your all-time favorite show that you attended for a hardcore show that you were in? You know, you were just watching
Jesus.
and not playing.
God damn, that's a tough one. I think when I saw there's a couple shows in Chicago that were crazy. There was like a Lifetime and Weston show. I really love that band Weston, that pop punk band.
Yeah.
And Lifetime put it, and I really like that show a lot. I think, damn, there's also that show. Oh, I really like that show. It was with Converge and Barrett, Cave-In, and I think Ire played that band, that Canadian band Ire, which was fucking sick. That band ruled.
Yeah,
and
Ire's good.
So underrated. I was stoked I got to see Ire because I thought they were really rad. I think that was
I think I saw Ire once at the Space in Worcester, I think.
Yeah, they're super underrated. But that was the type of stuff I loved. I loved like just dark, doomy, fucked up metal-ish type stuff. That was my jam back then. But I mean, there's so many. And I saw like Coalesce with Today Is the Day and Brutal Truth, you know, and it's just like all this shit. So it all kind of blends in.
I got two more questions. What was the last movie you watched?
Last movie I watched was fuck. Oh God, this is embarrassing. I watched The Peanut Butter Falcon.
Oh, I saw that a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, I don't know. I was like, when I can't sleep, I usually watch horror movies, and I don't know, it helps me sleep. But that just came up first on Amazon Prime or whatever, Netflix or whatever. I was like, all right, fine, I'll just watch that. And I just watched them to go to sleep. That was the last one. But it was a good movie.
It was a good movie.
It was good. It's charming.
My last question is, if you've been listening to any hip hop, what have you been listening to?
I love Aesop Rock. I listen to a lot of Aesop Rock, and I like the Ghetto Boys.
Yeah, I love the Ghetto Boys.
Those are the two hip hop artists that I listen to more than anything. But Aesop Rock, he lives out here he lives in Portland, and so I actually see him at like skate events and stuff.
Oh, nice.
At bump it, like I'll see him at like coffee shops and stuff, and like it's rad because I'm like I get a little starstruck by him because he's actually I think he's awesome.
Yeah. All right, we got about 45 seconds. I just want to thank you so much, Jamie. I really appreciate you doing this. It's an honor to talk to you. Will we ever see a There Were Wires reunion show?
We talk about a lot of stuff
Oh, I
all the
would love to
time.
see that. I would love
We
to see
talk
that.
and we talk and we talk, and we're all like, me, Jeb, Ryan, and Thomas are all like best of friends. We talk all the time, and we have some cool things coming up. So, keep an eye on our Instagram. That's kind of the only way to get in touch with us. But I
Yeah.
run it, so if you guys have any questions, let me know.
All
And
right.
dude, it was really good to talk to you. I really appreciate you having me.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. And I'm going to stay in touch with you all the time anyway.